I'm 87 years old, and there are things I never said. Things I should have said to my mother while I still had the chance. Things I should have said to the man I spent my life with. Things I should have said to my children. To my dearest friends, to myself. I kept so much inside. My whole life, I stayed silent. I thought I was being careful, thoughtful, kind. But now I understand what it really was. And I don't have the chance to go back anymore. When you are a young woman in this country, silence is sold to you as a virtue. You are taught to be agreeable, to be pleasant, to not rock the boat. Nobody says it out loud. Exactly. But the message finds its way in any way through every room you walk into, every conversation where you hold your tongue, every time someone rewards you for being easy to be around. So you learn to stay quiet. You tell yourself, it is not the right time. I don't want to hurt anyone. It is better to just let it go. And there is a part of you that even believes it. I did that my entire life. And for most of those years, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought the silence was generous. It wasn't. It was the most costly habit I ever had. I grew up in a household where women kept things smooth. My mother was that way. Her mother was that way before her. When something hurt, you didn't say so. You put a good face on it. You made dinner. You kept moving. And I watched that pattern, and I absorbed it the way children absorb everything, quietly, completely, without even knowing I was learning. So when I got hurt as a girl, I didn't speak up. When someone said something that wounded me, I swallowed it. When I disagreed, I kept it to myself. Not because I didn't have opinions, Lord. I had opinions, but I'd learned that expressing them came with a cost. A raised eyebrow, a shift in the room, that faint, unmistakable feeling of having said too much. So I became careful. In my marriage, I didn't say when I was hurting because I didn't want my husband to feel blamed. With my children, I held back what I truly needed because I didn't want to be a burden. With my friends, I smoothed over things that bothered me because the friendship felt more fragile than my feelings. And at work, I spent decades in rooms full of people, sitting at tables where decisions were being made, and I stayed quiet. I had ideas. I saw problems others didn't see. I knew things. But I waited for the perfect moment to speak, and the perfect moment never came. And then the meeting was over. Each silence felt like the easier choice. And it was, in the short run. But easy choices have a way of building up. Here is what I want you to understand. Silence doesn't make things better. It doesn't dissolve a problem. It doesn't heal a wound. It doesn't make what is true stop being true. It just buries things, and everything buried is still there, waiting. The feelings you don't express don't leave you. They go somewhere deeper. And from there, they work on you quietly, steadily. I remember a season in my 40s when I couldn't explain why I felt so tired. Not physically tired, the other kind. The kind that sits in your chest. My children were in school. My husband and I were getting along fine on the surface. I had no good reason to feel what I was feeling. I went to my doctor. She sat down, looked right at me, and asked, "How are you really doing?" And I said, "I am fine," because that was the answer I always gave. I wasn't fine. I was lonely inside a full life. I was carrying years of unexpressed feeling. I was grieving something I didn't even have a name for. Some version of myself I had slowly set aside. But I said, fine. I smiled and I went home and I made dinner. And over time, the silence changed who I was. I became a woman who held everything in, who smiled on the outside and stayed perfectly quiet on the inside. I started doubting my own feelings. If something hurt me and I didn't say so, I'd start to wonder, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Maybe it didn't really matter. That is what years of silence does to you. It teaches you to distrust yourself. And once you stop trusting your own inner life, you are not really living it anymore. You are just managing it. There are moments I've lived with for a long time, moments where the right thing was right there, available to me. And I chose not to take it. My daughter was about 16. She came down to breakfast one morning, and I could see immediately that something was wrong. She had that look a mother knows, the one that says, I've been awake most of the night. I wanted to sit down across from her and say, honey, I can see something's hurting you. You can tell me, whatever it is. I am here. But I didn't. I told myself I didn't want to push. I told myself teenagers needed space. I told myself if I said the wrong thing, she'd shut down entirely. So I said good morning, and I poured the coffee, and she left for school, and the moment was gone. I've wondered ever since what she was carrying that day. I never found out. There was also a night, late in my marriage, when my husband and I were lying awake in the dark. We'd grown apart the way people do, not all at once. But so gradually, you almost don't notice, until one day you are side by side in the same bed and miles away from each other. That night I had so much I wanted to say. I miss you. I feel like we've been on opposite sides of a wall, and neither of us knows how to get back over. I am scared. We're losing something we can't get back. I didn't say any of it. I told myself tomorrow would be a better time. When we weren't tired, when things were easier. Tomorrow became the next day, and the next, and the years kept going. He passed away 11 years ago, and those words, the ones I kept saving for a better moment, are still with me. That is the thing about silence. The words don't disappear. When the moment passes, they stay. They follow you. They become part of the weight you carry for the rest of your days. I want to be honest with you about what a lifetime of silence costs. Because I've had a long time to count the price. The most visible cost is in your relationships. The conversations that never happen. The misunderstandings that harden into distance. The people you love who never quite know what you actually needed from them. Because you never told them. But the cost that took me the longest to see is what it does to your sense of yourself. When you spend years not speaking your mind, not naming your feelings, not asking for what you need, you start to lose track of who you are. Your own voice starts to feel like an intrusion. Your opinions start to feel optional. Your needs start to feel like inconveniences. The truest parts of you start to feel like problems to be managed instead of things to be expressed. And quietly, over time, you build a life in which you are present for everyone, but absent from yourself. I was the dependable one, the one people counted on, the one who held the household together, showed up at every function, kept the peace in every room. And I am not sorry for any of that. But there is a difference between being dependable and being known. The people in my life depended on me, but how many of them truly knew me, knew what I longed for, what frightened me, what I had dreamed of doing with my one life that I never got around to saying out loud? Not many, because I never told them. And somewhere along the way, I stopped expecting to be known. I accepted a certain invisibility, not the kind anyone inflicted on me, the kind I chose for myself. Over and over, every time I stayed quiet. That is the real cost, not just what goes unsaid between you and others, but the self that goes unspoken, the woman inside you that no one ever fully meets. I am 87 now, and sitting with that number, I've had more than enough time to understand what I would do differently. The thing I've come to believe fully and completely is this: silence is not neutral. We're taught to think of it that way. We think of staying quiet as the absence of action, as not doing anything, but it is always a choice. And like every choice, it shapes things. It shapes your relationships. It shapes your sense of yourself. It shapes the story you leave behind. When you stay silent to avoid a hard conversation, you are not preserving peace. You are choosing who carries the discomfort, and you are choosing yourself. When you stay silent to spare someone else's feelings, you are not being kind. You are offering them a version of you that isn't whole, a version that has already made itself smaller so they don't have to feel anything difficult. And when you stay silent because you've come to believe that your voice doesn't matter, that belief will take root. It will grow. And it will cost you more than any argument ever would have. If I could go back, I would tell the younger version of me, speak, not when you found the perfect words, not when everyone is ready to hear it, not when you've eliminated all the risk. Speak now. Speak when you are unsure. Speak when your voice shakes a little, because the peace you build by staying silent is not real peace. It is just quiet. And there is an enormous difference. Real peace comes after the hard conversation, after the thing is said, after the air clears. That kind of peace I had too little of, and I want more for you. You were not put on this earth to be easy for everyone. You were put here to be real. Your feelings are real. Your needs are real. Your voice, the one you've been swallowing for years, has always been worth hearing. I know that now. I just wish I had known it 60 years ago. If you are listening to me right now, I need you to hear this, say what you need to say. Have the conversation you have been putting off. Tell the person you love that you love them, not someday. Not when things are calmer, tell them now. Tell the person who hurt you that they hurt you. Tell yourself, out loud if you have to, that what you feel is real and it matters, and it deserves to be spoken. Don't wait for the moment to be right. There is no perfectly right moment. There is only this one. I am 87 years old, and I am telling you with everything I have left, the words you don't say today don't disappear. They just become the weight you carry for the rest of your life. And one day, you won't be afraid of speaking. You'll just be wishing you had.
So please, say it now, before it's too late.